Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me here today. I have the wonderful, oh my goodness, Mary Delgado, Frankie Valli's wife, Miss Renee Marino. And for anyone that does not know Renee, I came across Renee on the wonderful app Clubhouse, and I heard her talking about communications, and I was just listening to her speak, and it was so beautiful and how eloquent she sounded. And I was saying, ooh, I looked at her profile. It said Yahoo. I was actually reading the article that Yahoo Finance said that she is one of the top 10 communication coaches to look out for this year. And as I read about her more, she just got better and better. Not only is she a communications coach, as we're going to dive more deeply into what that even means, but she's also deeply involved in the personal development space as a whole. She was a co-host with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins of their first ever virtual world summit, which is awesome because I know that that was a very big event, and just mega stars in the industry. So for you to share the stage with them says something about you as a woman. And by the way, you are an amazing example of what a woman has the potential to grow up to be, and to be a force in what is oftentimes looked at as a very masculine industry of communication and speaking and being on camera. So without further ado, Renee, I thank you so much for being here. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time that we're going to spend together today.
Thank you so much, Devin. I'm so pumped to be here. Thanks for starting my Sunday morning off the right way. So I'm super, super happy to be here.
Of course. And there's no other way that I'd love to be spending my morning as well. So I just want to jump right into it, Renee. And I want to just, first off, learn a little bit more about you. We obviously know about your communication coaching and you on stages, both virtual and in person, and you teaching and training at universities. But tell me a little bit about who Renee was growing up and how she got to where she is now.
Little Renee Devin was a girl who just loved to dance. Since 5 years old, I studied dance, and I was always like the tap and jazz girl, sassy. I didn't want to take ballet at first. And then as I grew older and I started going to a really great dance studio, my dance teacher was like, you have to take ballet. It strengthens all of your other dance techniques. And I was like, oh, all right. So I did it, and of course grew to love it, and started doing community theater, started singing. And once I got on the stage, I just knew, I was like, this is a part of me. And it wasn't even, a lot of people ask me, when was the moment that you decided you were going to be a professional performer and on Broadway? And I said, the interesting part is there wasn't a one moment decision. It was just, no, I know this is what I'm meant to do. Right. It was like that inner knowing at a very young age. And I do believe it began the first time I got on the stage and sang my first solo. I did a show called George M. And I sang a solo called Down by the Erie Canal. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm meant to do. And from there, I just continued. I mean, I trained voice lessons, dance lessons. When it came to high school, did all of the shows. And when the time came for college, I said, okay, I know that my one true love is performing. So I want to major in musical theater. And so many people said, Renee, that is such a hard field. It's such a hard career. It's like the equivalent of being a quarterback in the NFL. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to be on Broadway, right? So a lot of people gave me the advice to find something else to fall back on. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And I went to a liberal arts college, which I wanted. I didn't want to go to a conservatory. So I still got my regular courses, my math, my science, all of that. But I focused on acting and singing and dancing. And it was some of the best years of my life. It was Wagner College in Staten Island, New York. And from there, right after the day after my college graduation, I was on a plane to Biloxi, Mississippi, to become the lead singer in a casino show out there called Heat Wave. And for 3.5 months, I sang and danced, doing 2 shows a night in this casino. And I was like the lead of this entire show. And it was like, for me, I was like 21 years old. I was like, this is it. I made it. And like, I remember calling my mom on the phone when I got my first paycheck. And I said, Mom, do you see why I do this? I just got paid to do what I love. And she was like, that's great, you know, because for me, it's like, it was my hobby. And I know Confucius says the quote, if you find a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And that's what this felt like to me. So, I mean, this story can go on and on, right? I continued performing, and I'm so blessed to have had a career of over 16 years on Broadway and film and TV. And really, Devin, it just came down to perseverance. And I really think that that's a quality that many people overlook, especially in starting out in any new business. They think that it's only talent and skill. And of course, right, that's huge. But if you're not willing to withstand the storms as well as the sunshine, the rain as well as the sunshine, then it's not going to happen. And I've had some of the most talented friends of mine leave the business of performing just because they were like, oh, I can't take this auditioning, you know, I can't take waiting around and being in this unstable career. So I really do believe it comes down to perseverance and always, first and foremost, belief in the self.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there, Renee, but one of the things that has actually been a common thread when it comes to the prior guests that we've had on is that you're living a life that you even had a vision of when you were a child. You knew that this was what you wanted to do. There's a good quote that your job is what you're paid for and your calling is what you're made for.
Yeah.
And you're living your calling, which I think is beautiful. But we also live in a society at the same time in which many people, 70% of people go to work every day and are miserable. You know, people live for 2/7 of their life, the weekend, instead of living for the majority of their life, which is the weekday. So how, in your opinion, were you able to stay the course and to not allow the negative influences of society to steer you in a path that was not yours?
I have to give all thanks to my parents. As you know, Devin, as we all know, like having a strong support system is everything. And never once in my life did I take 1 second for granted in being raised in the way I was. I was raised in a household, I'm Italian American, and it was my mom, my dad, my grandmother lived with us as well. And she was like my second mother and my older brother. And we sat around the table, eating, talking, communicating, arguing, laughing, right? But nonetheless, being so connected with one another and having that strong support system was everything, because those days, those rough days that we all have, I had those people that I could call and be like, oh, I'm just feeling crappy. You know, I went to 5 auditions today, got cut from all of them because that's real. You know, I've been traveling around New York City all day long with a backpack, my dance shoes, music books, dancing here, waiting in lines, and I got cut 5 times, right? And being able to call my dad or call my mom and be like, oh, I need to talk, cry it out, and then move on and have them be my reminder that, Renee, it's okay. As my dad always said, things take time, right? Good things take time. As long as you believe in yourself and don't let the world change you, always stay confident in the person you are. When I was 12 years old, I got invited. I auditioned for this all girls singing group, and it was called Just Girls. And I was like, oh my God, right? I made it. They wanted me as like their lead singer. And the first rehearsal, and I talk about this, I just wrote a book that's going to be published called Becoming a Master Communicator. And I talk all about this story in the book, but they wanted me as their lead singer. And I'm at the first rehearsal and I'm singing, and they're like, all right, Renee, your voice is so beautiful, but it's too pretty. We got to make it like rougher. And I'm like, and I'm 12, I'm like, all right, okay, like make my voice sound less good. All right, what the hell? Why'd you hire me? Right? Like, didn't you hire me because of my voice? And then they're like, all right, and now we want to make you look a bit older. I'm like, I'm 12. They're trying to make me look 21. And I'll never forget coming home from that rehearsal and being really down. And my dad just said, my dad's nickname for me, by the way, was Little Shit. His term of endearment for me, Little Shit. And I loved it. Couldn't have loved it any more than I did. So I called him Big Shit as his nickname. So he'd be like, Little Shit, you know what? You have to always stay confident in who you are and don't let anybody change you. And if you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to do this. And I ended up not doing it. But just that in itself, right? you can never underestimate the power of that beautiful, strong support system. And it doesn't just have to come from your parents. It could come from your friends, a friend's family that you're close with, your aunts, your uncles, a teacher. But to have at least one person that you know you can go to, the walls come down, it's completely vulnerable, completely authentic. That is everything. So I would say that is first and foremost how I was able to persevere, how I was able to continually remind myself, like, you can do this. You got this, right? Oh, it's all right. You got cut. It's okay. They said you're not this enough. You don't look that enough. You're not tall enough, right? But continually staying grounded and reminding myself of all that my parents taught me.
Yes, you and I are very fortunate in the fact that we had those parents that were that support system. And I grew up similarly in an Italian household. Now I'm half Panamanian, hence the Rodriguez, and I'm
Yep.
half Italian, but my birth father abandoned me. And then I got a bonus father who's also Italian, and my mother is from Italy herself. So I grew up with
Wow.
my grandparents barely spoke a word of English, every Sunday dinner, and just there's something about that culture that is so unique in and of its own. But the family aspect of what you're alluding to is it's the key. It's the key, and it's the rock bed of the culture. And I think it's so beautiful to see. Where in New York did you grow up?
So I actually grew up in New Jersey, and
Oh, you
that's
grew
where,
up in New Jersey.
yeah, Jersey. Yeah, born and raised in a town called Linden, but so close to the city, right? I mean, 30 minutes drive, or I'd hop on the train, get there in 35 minutes. And it was the best because for me, and you get it, you're from New York City. I was kind of in the suburban world of New Jersey, but so close to the city, also so close to the beach. So that was definitely a gift.
Yeah, so close to being a New Yorker, but not yet. It's okay
Not
though,
yet.
Renee.
Not yet.
It's okay. I forgive you. Anyway, I love what you said about perseverance. And there's one of my favorite quotes about perseverance comes from a man named Walter Elliott, in which he says that perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after the other. And I'm under the impression that a lot of the times when people are going through struggles of daily life, because in life, there's a good song that says if it ain't one thing, it's another. Life is always throwing curveballs at us. And I'm sure in your career, and there's actually one of the most fascinating things that I read about you was that you weren't originally picked to be Mary Delgado in the film. You were given a different role. But yet you persevered, and when you showed up to the audition, you said, I want to be Mary Delgado. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that situation where you weren't originally slotted to be that role, but yet you walked into the audition and you made up your mind. You had a desire to be that role, the lead woman. Why didn't you just stick with being a lesser role or being someone other than Mary Delgado? Because I think that is so interesting.
Well, this is my favorite story to share. And just to be really clear, I wasn't cast in any other role, but I was given an appointment to audition for a different role. So the story goes like this. I was doing the Broadway show playing Mary Delgado. Clint Eastwood comes to see the show because he was going to all the different casts to watch the different actors play these roles because he was directing the film. So one Sunday matinee, my friends were backstage and someone says, Clint Eastwood's here. And I was like, huh? And I go out on stage to do one of the numbers, and like 10 rows back, there he is, the legend himself. And I was like, oh, Clint Eastwood's here. So we go about the show. It's great. We all meet him afterwards, take a photo. That was it. Didn't even think twice about the film or being a part of the film because I just assumed, as we all do, I assumed they would be casting the film with, A-list actors, right? I'm like, Marissa Tomei is going to play Mary Delgado. So I didn't even think of it. They were casting it out of LA, but then we started getting word that they're calling people in from our cast to audition. And at that point I was like, well, this would be really cool to be a part of the film. Even if I was like a face in a crowd, like that would be just awesome. I've never done a film, never did TV. So now people are getting auditions, and now they put out a breakdown for the role of Mary Delgado, which means they put out a description for the character. Sassy Jersey girl becomes Frankie Valli's first wife, this sassy, blah, 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 Spitfire. And I was like, okay. So I called my agent and I was like, listen, I would love to be in for the role of Mary. I mean, I'm currently playing her at the highest level you could be playing her on Broadway, right? So hopefully that warrants an audition. A few weeks later, all the girls from my cast, friends of mine, they're all getting auditions for Mary. And in my head, I'm like, wait a second. Many of these girls, they weren't even technically the type, right? In the breakdown. So I'm like so confused. I'm like, wait, I haven't gotten a call yet. Okay. So I call my agent. She's like, Renee, I don't know what the problem is. They just won't give you an appointment for Mary, but they said they'll give you an appointment for one of the angels who sings My Boyfriend's Back. And I'm like, wait, so you're telling me I'm literally Mary, like I am her right now, and they don't think that I'm the right type? Like, what's going on? And these are those times in business, in our lives, where you're just like, I've done everything I can do, right? Like, what else can I do, barring like barging through the door? So I remember like throwing my hands up, like physically and spiritually, and being like, all right, I did what I can do. I'm going to go in and audition for an angel, right? That's the best I can do. So I go to the audition that day. I'm in the room with the casting director. We're having a great conversation. He's telling me that he saw the show the night before. He loved it even more than when he saw it originally. And he goes, all right, Renee, would you like to sing the song, My Boyfriend's Back, first, or read the scene for the angel? And Devin, I took a second, and I'm not even kidding. I like heard this little voice being like, this, you got to do this. It feels too right. And I looked at the casting director in the eye and I go, you know, Jeff, I got to be honest with you. I was really hoping to come in and read for the role of Mary Delgado. And I was like, where did that come from? Like, I just said it. And he took a second and he looked at me and he goes, I was just thinking the same thing. And I was like, amazing. All right, cool. Oh my God, great. And he's like, okay, so you can do the Angels audition and then come back another day if you would like, you know, some more time to prepare for Mary. And I go, nope, I'm doing the audition today. I was like, I'm not leaving this building until I do this damn audition. So did the angel stuff. He gave me some time, went into the hallway, went through the Mary scenes, came back in, did the audition, and him and I ran through a couple scenes together. And I left there that day just feeling so happy and grateful. And I think what's important for everyone to understand is I wasn't happy and grateful because I was like, yes, I'm going to book this role. No, it was the fact that I gained an opportunity and I gave myself that opportunity. Like in that moment of communicating honestly and from my heart, I gave myself a chance. And for me, that's all I ever wanted, because I pictured myself in the movie theater watching Jersey Boys on the screen and pictured myself being like, I can't believe I was playing Mary Delgado at that time and I didn't even get an audition, right? That would have killed me. It's like, oh my God, I didn't even get the opportunity. But what I did was gave myself that opportunity by communicating honestly. And I remember like walking down the street and, you know, I was raised Catholic and I passed by and there was this church and I went and I was like, I kneeled down and just like said a prayer of thanks because I just felt so grateful that I got the chance. That was it. And the rest I left up to God, the universe. Like I said, it wasn't about getting the role. And 2 weeks later, I was at my childhood home in New Jersey with my mom, dad, and my grandmother about to leave for my brother's wedding. And my agent calls me and she's like, you're Mary Delgado in the movie. Clint Eastwood loved you. And I was like hysterically crying. And it was just this beautiful moment, sharing it with the three people who raised me, you know, and my mom's like in shock. My dad's crying. My grandmother's like, I've been praying for this for years. She's like 90 in her wheelchair, like with her hair done always. And I was like, this is such a beautiful moment. So fast forward, I'm on set the first day. Again, never did a TV show, film, nothing. This was literally like jumping off of a cliff. And Clint Eastwood comes up to me that first day and he's like, you know, I went around to all the different casts, but nobody was in your class. And then you came in and put yourself on tape and it was the icing on the cake. And I'm like holding back the tears, right? I literally was like, this is a dream. So every day I would film that first day, and every day after, he and I would sit and eat lunch together. And he became my mentor. I would ask him questions upon questions. Clint, what was it like when you started acting? Clint, what was it like when you were growing up? What do you value most? What do you, right? And I just like took such advantage of being in this new world of filming, but also in the presence of such greatness. And what he said to me the first day was such a mark of who he is as a person. He said, because what I said to him was, you know, your whole team are such it's such a group of genuine, wonderful people. And they're just like you. You're so genuine. And he said, Renee, life is too short to surround yourself with people who don't lift you up. And I was like, I'm sorry. Life is too short. Yeah. To surround yourself with people that don't lift you up. And I said, I feel the same way. Like the people you surround yourself with is everything. And he's just amazing. He's one of the, greatest people I've ever met. And as we continued filming, I'd learn more and more each time. And weeks into the project, he, myself, and the producer are eating. I love to eat. So, that's what I was doing all the time when I wasn't filming. And the producer said, Clint knew that he wanted you for the role when he saw you on Broadway. Let me remind you, that was weeks and weeks before I got to even audition. And I said, do you guys want to hear a funny story? I didn't have an appointment to audition for Mary. I only had one to audition for an angel. And the only reason I got to audition for Mary is because I opened up my big mouth in the room. And they were like, what do you mean? We requested you. We said we would like the girl from Broadway to come in to audition for Mary. So now I'm like, what? So now we're all like, what's going on? What happened? Come to find out, it all came down to a simple miscommunication. There was a casting associate who was juggling a few films at once and just dropped the ball. And I love this story so much because it's such a reminder to, number one, always follow your gut instincts because they will never steer you wrong. And number two, communication is the foundation of everything, all of our relationships. And if I did not communicate that day because I got held back by fear, as so many of us do when communicating, right? Oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to sound needy. I don't want to do this. I don't want to seem this. What we do is we hold ourselves back from our truth and from actually having an honest and open dialogue. So that day, what I did was simply just, as I said, communicated from my heart. And look what it did. I gave myself a chance that, Devin, if I didn't, truth be told, some other girl who looked similar to me, acted her butt off, could have walked through the door. Clint could have been like, oh, I love this girl. And I would have been sitting at home, never knowing that Clint Eastwood was waiting for me actually to walk through the door. So I just think it's such a great story because of that. Because we are all on a daily basis presented with opportunities. And how many times, I want you to all think about this. How many times have you let an opportunity pass you by because you were afraid? Oh, I don't want to, what if this happens? What if that, what if? And my question to you is, what happens if you don't open up? And what happens if you don't communicate? What will you lose? And for me, that always drives me to say, you know what? I'm scared. I am so freaking scared right now, but I'm going to take some imperfect action and I'm going to do it anyway, because that's what courage is, right? Courage is not courage without fear. So let that be a little lesson for you the next time you are presented with an opportunity that you want to capture, but you're afraid. We're all afraid, right? You think I wasn't afraid in that moment to like say to a film casting director, hey, I was really hoping to come in and read for the role of Mary Delgado. Of course I was. But my deeper self knew that if I didn't say it, boy, I would not be able to live with myself knowing that I could have.
Yeah, there's how do I follow that? That's a problem. That was awesome. I heard you share that before, and maybe not in that much depth, but unbelievable. Number one, you created the opportunity for yourself, which I think is such an example for people to follow. Opportunities will not come to you. You have to seek them out. And it's so funny that you were supposed to be there, but stuff happened where this casting, the woman who was supposed to get in touch with you, she was juggling all this stuff, and she accidentally forgot to get in touch with you, whatever the case may be. But still, you created that opportunity for yourself. And you also touched on the power of, if I didn't do this, I would have had so much regret. Seeing somebody else on that screen would have hurt me. And that is what this show is really all about. You know, it's a sad, sad time when people get to the end of their life and they say, I wish I could have done that, or I wish I would have done this. And you just laid perfectly outlined for us of how someone can go against the fear that is oftentimes holding us back. Mark Twain said that courage is the resistance to fear, the mastery of fear, not the absence of fear. And as you said, we all have it, but going against it and taking that imperfect action. That was a very nice choice of words that you used there. So that is just unbelievable. And Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn, coming out there with the shotgun. Unbelievable. I mean, that is a once in a lifetime type of opportunity, which then I'm sure has opened up many other doors for you, being Mary Delgado in that film and playing her very well, I must say. So let me ask then, you taking advantage of such an opportunity, which if you never knocked on that door, it would have never been opened. What other opportunities have come out of that opportunity? Because I feel like there's a really good, I love quotes, Renee. There's one.
I do too.
Alexander Graham Bell. He said, as one door closes, another door opens. But yet we look so long and regretfully on the closed door that we cannot realize that the other one has opened. So for you, how has that open door led to more open doors?
Great question. It's such a beautiful life. It really is, because we are presented with so many surprises, right? Like sometimes things happen in ways that you wouldn't really think. And after I did the film, which was again, one of the greatest gifts of my life, and not just because, oh, I got to star in a major motion picture, but for me, it's always the deeper meaning. And the fact that, as I said to you, I got to work with, legend, right? He is a legend. And what many people don't know is he's not just a legend because of his talent as an actor, a producer, a director. He is such a real, grounded human being. And for me, Devin, I value that above anything else in this life. You know, I've worked with some of the most talented people. I've seen the most beautiful people, right? I've walked red carpets with, celebrities that we all know. And I met them and I was beyond disappointed, because who they were as a person was not what we hope for when we see them on television. And what happens for me is I'm like, okay, I'm turned off, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all human. We're on the same team of humanity. So no matter what your accolades, to me, you're always a person. And that's just always how I look at it and how I see myself. So for doing the film, the doors that it opened were not just career opportunities, but for me, self-development opportunities. When I was doing the film, Clint taught me one of the greatest lessons of my life, and that is the beauty of imperfection. I was filming one of my huge scenes when Frankie and I break up. And during the scene, we go through it once, and Mary's drunk in the scene, and she's yelling at Frankie and he's following her up the stairs. And we did it once, and then he goes, all right, now I want you to really give it to him. And I'm like, all right. So we get ready, and I go back up, and I'm like, I start the lines, and I'm like, you show up for a couple of days and you think that makes you a father. Yeah. And I start screaming because I forget all my lines. And then like a second later, I pick it back up and I continue on. He yells cut, and he goes, that was it. And I go, Clint, I forgot all my lines. He goes, I don't care. It was real and it was raw, and that was good. He said, when I was filming with Meryl, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, he's talking to me about Meryl Streep. This is crazy. And he's like, he's like, she loved to be perfect and do a million takes. But then I started filming her rehearsals, and she realized how organic they were, and she started having them be filmed all the time. So it was this beautiful lesson about, like, it's not about being perfect, Renee. The fact that you freaking didn't know what you were going to say. How often does that happen when you're in an argument with someone? When you're at your freaking wit's end and you're so frustrated that you forget what you're going to say and you just start screaming. That's a real, right? And I never thought of it like that because, right, we're always trying to be perfect, especially as a performer. Keep training, be better, come on, what's going on, Renee? That whole perfectionist voice. But once he taught me that, that opened up a whole door to myself to say, you know what, Renee, it's all right. You don't need to be perfect. Perfect. What is perfect anyway? There is no perfect. So that was an incredible opportunity for me. As well as for me being in California, I lived there for like 3.5 years and I got to do my first TV show where I was a guest star. It would have been a recurring guest star, but it was a brand new pilot for Fox. So it only lasted like 10 episodes, but still these were all opportunities that I gained because for me, it's like, who is this new girl coming into Hollywood? Now she's in a Clint Eastwood film, right? Like it was this cool, crazy thing, but still it's a business. And no matter what I may have done, it's like, you're still always having to show up, right? You're still always having to show up and essentially prove yourself and prove what you're capable of. So for me, it was, I mean, it opened up so many doors, including the door for me now to becoming a communication coach. Not because I did a film with Clint Eastwood, but because the whole story behind it, the story I shared with you, all comes down to communication, right? And it's like, most people are like, oh yeah, but tell me, like, how did you become a star in this film? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell you the story, but it's different than what you think, right? People always think of it from like the Hollywood glamorous side, but I'm like, no, this is the real deal. Like, if I did not communicate honestly and openly, I may not have ever gotten this once in a lifetime opportunity. And it also opens the door to the lesson of interpersonal communication, which is that communication with yourself, which is first and foremost. Devin, if I didn't have a strong communication with myself on a daily basis, I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to hear my inner voice saying to me, Renee, you have to do this. It feels too right. Because here's the truth, everyone, and we all know this, that loud voice of our ego will drown out any cries of our true self if we let it, if we don't have that strong dialogue within ourselves. So because I did, I was able to capitalize on that and say, oh, okay, I got to do this. So it's been, I mean, I'm telling you, doing that film and gaining that opportunity is so much more about like the deeper part of life than just like, oh my God, I got to star in a film, which of course was like amazing and mind blowing. But everything that it's taught me and the relationships from that film set that I gained, not only with Clint, but his team, and just learning so much from him. I mean, those are lessons that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, that I share with my clients and that I use now in my coaching. So it is just truly, I think of it, every time I think of it, I could cry because it was just such a blessing.
Yeah, you definitely have a gift of being able to understand that the intangibles are more important than the tangible things that you got out of that situation, which is beautiful, because even when I asked you, what did you get out of it? I was expecting you to go down a road where, oh, I got this opportunity, I got that. And yes, you spent about 30 seconds on that, but you spent about 5 minutes talking about who you became in the process and how it enabled you to develop on an intrinsic level, not only an extrinsic level. So man, Renee, that was awesome. Now that has to lead me, and very quickly, before we talk a little bit more about your communication coaching and your programs that you have, which are amazing. What do you value, or what are the principles that you live by? Because as I hear you speak, I hear a woman who is grounded in who she is. And as I heard you talking about walking down the red carpet, I could visualize you walking down the red carpet, but also remembering where you came from.
Oh, always. I just got chills as you said that.
Right. I could see that. Like, and that was beautiful for me to see, especially because I could picture, as I said, I'm Italian, and I have a lot of Italian cousins. I could imagine this Italian girl walking down the block with her friends, and I'm going to go do my hair now. And and then walking down the red carpet, I don't know about you, but a lot of the times in New York City where I grew up in like Howard Beach. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area, but it's like where John Gotti grew up and like super Italian. And a lot of the times people fall into doing the same jobs. I'll either go work for the union, I'll be a hairstylist, I'll do this, I'll do that. A lot of the times, and there's nothing wrong with that because people are making their living and they're doing what they're doing. As long as they're happy, more power to you. But to see someone like you who chose their own path and listened to the beat of their own drum, to walking down the street in Linden, New Jersey, to walking down the red carpet, unbelievable, Renee. So that all leads me full circle back to what are the principles that you live by? Because it's beautiful to watch you and listen to you here. And I think I have an idea of what they are, but I need you to tell me what they are.
Yeah. Number one, authenticity. In every moment of every day, in every situation. As you said, it's about remembering my morals and how I was raised and where I was raised and the conditions I was raised in. That to me is everything, because all I picture are my parents and my grandmother and my brother and my family who we sat around that kitchen table together, right? Just up yesterday, my aunt and uncle were over at my mom's, and what are we doing? Sitting around the kitchen table, eating, drinking red wine. Like that is where I come from. And my parents worked so hard. My dad worked in a factory. My mom worked in a nursing home, right? My mom was a hairstylist. My father came from such a hard, rough background. And knowing that I could give them the gift of honoring them and what they brought to my life by going further than they ever did, right? My dad always said, I just want you to go further than I ever did. And I just always see that and I feel that. And in every moment of my life, it just brings me such joy and excitement to be like, oh my God, I'm the first one to graduate college in my family. Oh my God, my dad's in the audience cheering me on. Go little shit, right? Like that feeling is always what kept me so completely authentic in every exchange, right? Never putting on a facade, trying to be someone else or what you think I should be. And that's not always easy for people. But if you're not grounded, as you said, I was always and have always been grounded in who I am and the advice that I was given from my mom and dad saying, always be true to who you are, right? The world will always try to change you, but you stay grounded and you stay confident in the person that you are. I mean, Devin, that's how I got, through years and years of, I believe, one of the toughest businesses in this world, the business of the entertainment field. Whew, talk about rejection. Talk about you're not this enough, Renee. You're too Italian. You're not Italian enough. You're not tall enough. Oh, I don't know if maybe you could lose this amount of weight. If you are not grounded in who you are, you can really have some problems, because if people are constantly telling you what you're not, if you don't say, but this is what I am, and have belief in that, it's very easy to falter. So for me, going back to those principles, and like I picture that, right, walking down the red carpet, that was my favorite thing, because E-Entertainment would be interviewing me, or all the night shows, and they'd be like, oh, Renee, tell us where you're from. And like I just couldn't wait to be like, I'm from Linden, New Jersey. I know nobody in the business. I had no aunt or uncle who was a director, right? Like I did this straight up hard work, perseverance. My dad knows no one in the business. My mom has no clue where I even am right now. She's like, what red carpet? But this is what is possible when you stay true to who you are. So number one, authenticity. Number two, treating people the way you want to be treated. And that to me is like so simple, yet so important. Like when I walk down the street, right? I love like smiling and saying hello to my neighbors, not being down in my cell phone, right? Rudely walking past all the people who are saying hello, but treating people in that loving way that I love to be treated. I think that those principles are just above all else so key. And number three, just living from a place of love and always knowing that Wendy Mass, speaking of quotes, I'm another quote buff. Wendy Mass has a quote that's one of my favorite of all time. And it's, everyone's fighting a battle you know nothing about. So the next time you get pissed off, right? When you're driving and someone doesn't move fast enough when the light turns green, or someone doesn't say hello for a reason or another. Instead of getting angry, right? It's like, be the change. Number one, Gandhi said, be the change, you say hello. And number two, realize this isn't about you. This person could be battling with some deep negative thoughts, right? They're maybe in a struggle, the struggle of their lives. Understand that you don't know that. So give them grace, lead from a place of love. And I think that that's the most beautiful way we can live our lives.
Yeah, Renee, that reminds me, have you ever heard of the Stephen Covey analogy, or the story that he told about the man on the train with his kids?
No.
So I'll share it very quickly, as it speaks perfectly to your last point. So there's this man that was a businessman. He was sitting on a train going home from work, but he was still working on something very important. And a couple of rows down, there was a man who was just sitting there, and his two kids were running wild. They were running up and down the train, and it was making so much noise and distracting the man from what he was doing. And he was looking over at the man thinking, when is this man going to curb his kids? When is he going to tell them to be quiet, to respect other people? So he has enough, because it's been about 10 minutes and the man hasn't told his kids to stop. And finally he walks over and he says, "Sir, I'm sick and tired of you and your kids thinking that you're running this train and that you're the only one on here. I'm trying to do important work. Please get your kids to be quiet and respect everybody else." And the man turns to him and he says, "Sir, I apologize. We're just returning from the hospital where the kids just said bye to their mother for the very last time. I'm very sorry that I did not curb my kids. Kids, please come sit down. Allow this man to continue doing his work." And the man walked away with his head down and thinking, oh my God, only if I knew what he was going through.
Exactly. And Devin, it's so important, because we all fall into this, right? It's so easy. Like, and again, we're in this world of technology. We're attached to our gadgets, and we're in our own world. And it's like, right. We're self-involved, and that's okay, that we are all there. But if we can just create 1 second of a space to remind ourselves of that fact, that we don't know what another person is going through, maybe that split second of reminding ourselves of that will withhold us from either lashing out or being rude or not saying hello and giving a smile. I mean, it's the little things. It's the simple things are the big things. And I just realize more and more every day, simple things, right, that can go, again, fall to the wayside because we're attached to our phones and our heads are down in electronics. We forget about the small moments of the power of kindness, of using those old-fashioned manners, right? Holding the door open for someone while they're either before you or after you, or standing online with someone. And if you notice something about them, I think this is a beautiful practice that I want to share with all of you. I put this in my book as well, but it's a simple practice of, like, when you notice something on someone or about someone, like, Devin, I just love the way you speak. You have such a beautiful way of sharing what you have to say through your voice. Like, that's amazing, right? Or you see someone at Starbucks and you're standing online and they just have this beautiful smile. Like, I just want to tell you, you have such a beautiful smile. And trust me, I will guarantee when you do that, what I have noticed consistently is oftentimes the person who's receiving the compliment, all of a sudden, like, for a second, you see a slight shift in their physiology. It's like all of a sudden their shoulders go back, and it's the compliment that they didn't know that they needed. Because again, I'm sure they're wrapped up in a million things going on in their head. Oh my God, could be beating themselves up, as we all love to do. Oh, damn it. I can't believe you forgot this. What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. And then someone says, wow, what a beautiful smile you have. And for a split second, you get to pull that person out of their own self-sabotage. What a gift. Like, I have chills, like, just thinking about it, because it's those little things that we so easily forget about, because we're in a world of oftentimes fabrication, filters, highlight reels, right? You know, the newest downloading system, everything is we're in this world where it's very sometimes exterior, right?
Absolutely.
But remembering that there's a whole world inside of us that's actually the real world, right? The inner world. So if you can help pull someone else out of their maybe momentarily negative inner world, what a gift.
Absolutely. And that's something that I do as well. I just love it. And not only I was reading Zig Ziglar's work, See You at the Top, and he talks about one of the ways to get yourself out of a rut or whatever you're going through is to be the light for somebody else. And I'm sure you can attest to this too. If you've ever said, you know, you have a beautiful smile and they're, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Or I really appreciate that. That makes you feel really good too.
Oh, it's the best. It's like it's a 2-for-1 gift.
Yes.
It's literally a 2-for-1 gift. When you can, I say this, when I was performing on Broadway, let me tell you something. Walking out, having the luxury of walking out of the stage door after a performance with the fans waiting there for you to sign their playbill was a luxury that was never lost on me. Every night, no matter how tired I was, I had to hop on the train back to New Jersey, you know, like an hour and 15 minutes after dancing for 2.5 hours. I was never not grateful for the gift of being able to walk out of the stage door and have people be like, oh my goodness, can you sign my playbill? And I would always have a brief conversation. I mean, some of the most beautiful moments I experienced just going up to someone and saying hello and them saying like, oh my goodness, will you take a picture with me? And me like, absolutely. And for them, it was like the biggest like moment of their lives, and me getting to feel that because they were so happy, then I was so happy, and I got to go home and be like, as it is above your head, grateful. I felt so grateful for that gift. Like I literally just made them happy by saying thank you, and thank you for spending money to come see me in a show, and thank you for waiting for me in the freaking cold of New York City in the dead of winter. Thank you. And just having like that person feel such happiness. Oh my goodness. Just the absolute best.
And it all goes back to you staying grounded. So you should give yourself a big pat on the back because that is amazing. Now, Renee, I could talk with you all day long,
Yes.
all day long. Trust me, we could go down the Tony Robbins path. We can do all of that, but I want to talk a little bit about communications coaching and what that is and how people could work with you if they would like to, because, if they're smart, they will. So talk to me a little bit about what is communications coaching first off, and then how can people work with you and what do you have coming up?
Yes, I love this. I love this. Communication coaching is all about helping people to learn to connect with one another in their relationships, either personal or professional, from a real and authentic place. Again, authenticity, number one value, number one most importance to me. Communication is the foundation of all of our relationships, whether we're conscious of it or not. And again, we're in this day and age of the beautiful gift of technology, which again, thank God for it. That's how you and I are able to connect right now. But if we continually rely on technology for everything on such a deep level, excuse me, that we're forgetting what I call that old school simplicity of having a face-to-face talk, or picking up the phone to our ear to have a conversation, or doing something that I love to do, write an old school handwritten letter. If we let all of that fall to the wayside, that is why we have problems in our relationships. So that's the basis of communication coaching for me. What I have been focusing on, which I love so much, and it's perfect timing. As we know, the world has been shut down. We have been forced, whether we like it or not, to communicate virtually, hop on Zoom calls, hop on Facebook Lives, right? Skype. And many of us still have such fear attached to that. Being able to press record on the video and be like, hey guys, Renee here, what's up? Being able to get on video and be their authentic selves, it can be really hard for people. So what I teach this amazing live workshop course called Connecting on Camera. And I just love it so much. Just talking about it gets me so fired up because my clients who have taken the course just feel such a different relationship to getting on video now, where instead of dreading it, they look forward to it. And I get, messages all the time from my clients being like, you turned me into a monster. I can't stop making videos now, right? But it's this beautiful addition to our lives to be able to communicate authentically through video. Because think about it, for myself as a new entrepreneur, as a communication coach, my entire business, Devin, is built virtually. And I speak to clients literally globally. India, Australia, the UK, the US. I mean, through the power of Zoom, through the power of my Facebook lives where people get to know me because they see me on video. So when we're able to connect this way virtually, we open the door to opportunity. I mean, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have been able to be the co-host of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's first ever virtual world summit if it were not for the power of video, where Dean Graziosi and Tony saw me and connected with me through video because I was a part of their challenges where the homework every day was to go live. And through that, I got to be interviewed on Dean Graziosi's podcast. I won. So Tony Robbins did this challenge, the comeback challenge, and it was 300,000 people. And I won the entire challenge. I won 5 days to Tony Robbins' private resort in Fiji because of video, right? I gained these opportunities because I was able to just be myself on video. So that is what I teach now. I teach connecting on camera, and it is just, it's a skill that we all must learn. And the truth is, whether we like it or not, right? No matter what age we are, what background, whatever our business is, we all are getting on video every day, right? So why not be able to learn to do it with more ease, more fun, and in a way where we are being our true selves, because that's how people connect with us. So that is what I am doing now.
And then Renee, when is the next time that you're offering this workshop?
Yeah. So I'm teaching, first of all, a live webinar, free, completely free, on April 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called How to Use Videos to Create Massive Opportunities. And then the course I will be offering again May 6th. And I teach it live, you guys. And that's really important because, you know, we're all, again, watching a million videos where we have to kind of work ourselves and watch maybe a course. But with me, I'm such a one-on-one person that I teach this live, which is powerful because I'm there with you. You have questions in the moment, you ask it, we work together. So that's May 6th. And then the course is also May 13th. So it's like a 2-day course, but I teach it a week, like it's in a week span. So right. May 6th and May 13th.
Okay, great. And I'm going to have this in the show notes. So for anybody that's listening, this is going to be in the show notes, but where can people go to sign up for, whether it be the webinar or the course?
Great. The webinar, I can give you that link as well to put in the show notes, and the course, connectingoncamera.com.
Beautiful. Okay, Renee, last question here. Like I said, I could talk all day, but we're going to have to do a part 2 sometime to this. But when you think of Renee, and you think about the life that she's going to live and that she's living, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind and the impact that you hope to have made on society?
Oh, that is a beautiful question. I would love, and I will, make an everlasting impact on society to remind people that when you are so authentically yourself, and you are so grounded in who you are through communicating with yourself on a daily basis, you open the door for others to do the same. Because when you stand so beautifully in your own light and you shine authentically from within, you shine so brightly that other people can't help but be lifted up by that light and then want to find that authenticity within themselves. So that is the legacy that I hope to leave, that it's never outside of ourselves. It is never about comparison or trying to be someone else. It's about always coming back to you, being the best you that you can be, and standing confidently and authentically in that person.
All goes back to living authentically for you, Renee, which I love. So Renee, thank you for your time today. You've been an absolute pleasure and an example for us all to follow in life, of no matter where you go in life, remembering where you came from and staying grounded in who you are. So Renee, thank you. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, Renee.
Thank you so much, Devin. This was amazing. Have a beautiful day.